Melody Brooke again. Today I'm going to talk about acceptance. And I know last Monday I talked about what I was going to talk about, and I've had lots of time to think about acceptance. And I'm actually calling this year my year of acceptance. Hi there, Lucretia. It's so good to see you. See if I can get that. Oh, there we go. Okay, so acceptance. What is acceptance? I thought about the fact that acceptance sometimes can seem like a negative, right? Accepting what is can mean you're not willing to do anything about the situation, which it doesn't necessarily have to mean that, because I think you have to accept the situation as it is before you can have any possibility of changing it. Because if you don't accept what is and you try to make it be something it's not, you can't really address the actual situation. And I think the reason for me that this year is my year of acceptance because I recognize that while I've gone through a whole lot of changes this past year, that for me, accepting who I am and accepting not only my capabilities, but accepting my limitations and accepting the reality of the world as it is today rather than fighting it constantly. I know a lot of you that follow me on Facebook understand, that I've been very vocal in my discussion about things in the world, which I will continue to do, but I'm doing it more from a place of acceptance and rather than fighting it. By accepting that this is the way we are as human beings, this is the way our culture is at this moment in time, and kind of working my way to an understanding of it by accepting it more fully, by accepting that we are who we are and what our limitations are as people, and accepting the possibilities of the future as well. And when I'm working on acceptance, part of what I'm working on is accepting myself more fully in all the parts of myself, and seeing that. Hi, Sabrina. So glad that you're back again. So we have to accept not only ourselves, we have to accept other people. We have to accept the situations that we are currently living in, working in today, and accepting responsibility or taking ownership. Hi, Kelly, of what we can. So in order to fully step into, hi, Judith, to be able to fully step into our ability to accept all of these things, we have to be aware of them, right? We have to learn to allow ourselves to connect with our truth, because one of the biggest things that I see with my clients is that they struggle to accept their own reality, and we all do this. So it's sort of the way we're raised in our lives, is that we are raised to believe that other people's perceptions have more weight than our own, and that is not true. We can take in data from other people, but we have to filter it through our own awareness in order to accept what is true and what isn't. Because when we just blindly accept other people's points of view, then what we end up doing is we stuff down our own needs, our own wants, and our own awarenesses that block us from being able to be attuned to what is right for us. And nobody can know what's right for us except for us. So being able to accept our own truths, our own realities, is the only way that we can be truly authentic. Learning to accept our truth and not fight it. So much of the time we fight it. It's like for example, there are things about this job situation that are good for me. I like the way how much it pays. I like the location. Maybe I even like the hours. But I recognize that this environment is toxic for me. This job is not something that I feel good about doing. I lose my integrity while I'm doing this job. So we can tune into the outside data of, it pays well, it's in the right location, it's prestigious, whatever. But if we have our if we're not accepting the truth of how we feel, if we're not accepting the truth of what is right for us, then we fall out of integrity because we're failing to accept the truth about what is right for us. And it's so much easier just to go along and do what other people think is the way, and take in their data and their feedback and believe that it's the right thing for us, even if it might not be at all the right thing for us. I see this with couples constantly, where one person's way of being and doing is completely wrong for the other person. And rather than accept that truth and try to find some middle ground, they start shutting off their awareness, and they start shutting off their availability and connection with that other person. They stop being honest with each other, and distance grows within the relationship. And over time, what can happen then is either, they sort of fall out of love with each other, or one or the other has an affair, or one starts doing an addiction, or whatever it is that stops them from being able to fully connect as a couple, because they're so afraid of accepting the truth about what they feel that they block it off with all of these other behaviors. So acceptance is an important thing to understand and be able to work into your way of being in yourself. And the best way I know to do that is to learn to become more and more mindful. And mindfulness is not just a meditation, it's sort of a daily practice. It is a way of listening inside as you're going about your daily life, paying attention and accepting what is true about how you feel, being self-aware about how you're impacting others and about how others are impacting you, and accepting those realities without making judgments about that. It doesn't mean that you're wrong or they're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're bad or you're doing something wrong. It just means that's what is. And the more awareness we can have of accepting what is, the more available we are to ourselves and to other people. And it's a big challenge to be that authentic. To accept that level of authenticity takes a certain amount of courage. And sometimes it means turning your life upside down, and not everybody, has the energy to do that. Hi, Bill. So the challenge that I'm giving you this week is to start upping your game in terms of awareness. Hi, Sam. If you haven't been here before, what I'm doing today is I'm talking a lot about acceptance. I'm talking about what acceptance is and how we can begin to use it as a practice in our lives so that we can be more authentic and connected in our relationships and with ourselves, and so that we can be happier people. And if you haven't tuned in before, please tell me where you're from, and I'm so glad that you're here. This is a real challenge for me to show up every week. I wasn't able to make it last week because I was on a flight coming back from from Denver. I say San Diego because my daughter used to live in San Diego. She now lives in Denver. So, coming back to acceptance. Why do we fight acceptance? Well, there's a lot of reasons why we fail to accept things. Sometimes one of the most difficult things for us to do is allow ourselves to accept what we're feeling about a situation, what we're feeling just in general, and what we're feeling about other people. We tend to use drugs and alcohol, sex and food and shopping and television and just anything that can alter our feelings to distract us from being aware and open and accepting. Hi, Carlos. Welcome back. So the struggle for us as humans is to allow ourselves to accept what is, even if we don't understand it, because sometimes, hi, Christy, good to see you here. So learning to accept our feelings in the moment. We don't have to necessarily make sense of them, because sometimes there are times when I'm like, I don't know why I'm feeling sad today. I just accept the fact that there's a little sadness right now. And if I'm open and curious about it, sometimes more awareness will come so that I can allow that feeling to be there. Sometimes it's just because maybe I haven't taken care of myself as much that day as I need to. And I've ignored a part of myself. And so there's a part of me that feels sad because I haven't been really taking care of myself like I should. Sometimes I will notice myself feeling anxious. And rather than try to run away from that feeling or do something to medicate it or do something to distract myself from it, if I just sit with it, I can learn so much more about myself. And I also then have the opportunity to express those feelings that need to be just removed. They just need to move on through us, right? Because feelings are energy in motion. And so when we can allow the motion of those feelings just to accept them and let them go, they stop running us. And feelings themselves are there for a reason. The reason we have feelings is to provide us with data about ourselves and about our world. So feelings are there. Sadness, for example, is there to tell us this is something that's important to us, and I'm either missing that or wanting more of that or needing more of that. Hurt is there to tell us that something is not right with us, right? And joy is there to tell us, yes, more of that. And anger is there to tell us we need to change something, like right now. So all of our feelings provide us with data. It's literally our sixth sense. It is how we learn about the world. But what happens is, and the reason this comes into this discussion about acceptance, is that when we fight allowing ourselves to accept what we are feeling, we're denying ourselves access to all of this data. Now, sometimes our feelings can lie to us, but it's not really the feelings that lie to us. It's how we interpret those feelings that lie to us. It's our old brain's belief system about those feelings that cause us to respond sometimes negatively or defensively. So, for example, this is your old brain, as I've talked about a lot. That old brain reactivity sends those chemical messages into our midbrain and floods us with emotions of fear, anger, resentment, all that stuff. And those feelings by themselves, there's nothing wrong with feeling them. So what we have to do is become aware of them enough. Hey, Francis, nice to have you on today. So as we become aware of them, we have an opportunity then to take a few deep breaths and calm ourselves down. The feelings are not wrong. They may just be sort of in a way that is causing us more distress, because if we interpret what we're feeling as meaning something about us or meaning something about another person, and then we make a judgment and we react defensively, hi San Juan, then what happens is that we can get ourselves hooked into negative reactions when we don't calm ourselves down. So we calm ourselves down, get ourselves to a mindful place. Learning how to calm ourselves is a really important coping mechanism, because when we just react automatically, we're not fully accepting that feeling. We're just trying to act out on it. So slowing things down to the point of recognizing, okay, wow, I just felt scared just then. There was a tone in that person's voice. There was something in the way that person walked or the look on their face that made me feel ashamed. What is that about? And accepting that and as data, not about the other person necessarily, although it could be, but first off, check out if it should be information about yourself, because we have these old triggers, right? Because most of us weren't raised in an environment where we felt safe and secure and protected all the time. Most of us had plenty of opportunity to have dysfunction in our lives. And so as an adult then, when we get put back in a situation where something happens and we're triggered back into those old feelings, we suddenly feel like we are back as a young child and we are trapped and we're incapable of doing anything, which isn't true as adults. We do have options that we didn't have as children. And so we accept perhaps that child's emotional reaction, but we also have to accept the fact that we're an adult and that we have opportunities and different ways that we can respond to those feelings than we did as a child. So it's a way, again, of accepting what is at the same time that you're taking ownership of the fullness of it. You are an adult now, most of you who are listening, I think, and that means that you're not trapped and helpless in the way that you were as a child. You don't have to respond reactively in order to cope with it. There are other ways that you can use your adult capacity to accept what is, make a different kind of a decision about what's happening, and choose to respond from perhaps a more compassionate place. Because so often in my practice, when I'm working with couples, I can see that each of them is desperately trying to survive whatever emotional complex that they're in at that moment, and they end up lashing out on each other instead of slowing things down enough to recognize exactly what is going on. And generally, it's some kind of misunderstanding that came from a trigger from when they were, 5 years old or 7 years old or something. And once that is understood, then there can be an opportunity for compassion. So acceptance is a big thing. Being able to accept, wow, I just felt some feelings when you said that. And knowing and accepting that doesn't mean that I have to reject you, attack you, go into shame myself, beat myself up. It just is what it is. Accept it for what it is and learn from the data that you now have gathered from those feelings that you're now accepting. And then you can make a completely different kind of decision or make a different way of understanding not only what's happening in the present, but sometimes you can even get more data about what happened in the past that way. Because when you allow those feelings to come up, and perhaps there's some kind of distortion underneath that, often that's the case, because when we're children, we start to believe that we're somehow, hi Richard, sorry, yeah, I'm old, I gotta put the glasses on to read it. So when we're children, we make decisions about what has happened around us, and we believe that we are to blame or that there's something wrong with us. We take, hi Ellen, welcome back. We start to take on ownership of things that don't belong to us, because as children, we're not responsible for the way our parents behave or how they treated us or what happened in our world. We're not responsible for that as children, and yet we take ownership of it because it's the only thing we can do. So then we grow up believing that somehow we are responsible for things that we're not responsible for. So learning to accept those emotions and to start to recognize and accept the truth of the situation and listen to those thoughts that are going through our heads as a result of that situation, we can accept what's going on without judging ourselves or the other person. And wow, you can start to shift everything in how your relationships work when you can shift into accepting what is without fighting it. Nice to see you too. Thanks. So, accepting feelings is really probably the biggest part of acceptance that I'm talking about here. The other part of acceptance is accepting that this is something, I just had a dream the other night. It was this most amazing dream. I dreamt that I was going to work for Oprah, that I was kind of an intern for Oprah, and that she had come in and asked me to take on this job of working with this group of people and their fears. And I said, okay, I can do that. And so I went into the room, and at least part of the wonderful things that I was telling them was that we are born perfect and whole, complete human beings when we're born. There's nothing wrong with us. We're perfect, whole, complete human beings. The only thing is that we are missing data We don't have enough information. We are kind of a clean slate there. Hi, Gail. And we need protection because we're small and we don't understand a lot of things. So our parents' job is really just to protect us and provide us with data. Hi, Vanetta. And so when we can accept that we are perfect and whole and complete in and of who we are, that we always have been, we were born that way, we stop beating ourselves up. We stop those negative voices in our head, and we can start accepting that we are valuable and precious. Hi, Larry. And so when we accept the truth of our preciousness, the truth of our wholeness, the truth of that we have so much more to offer than we even know, the more we can. Oh, yeah. So you're talking to each other. I love that. Any thoughts and questions here? I know it kind of seems like I'm all over the place, but really what I'm coming back down to very simply is just breathing in and accepting the truth of who you are and what you're feeling. And that is something that we so often reject rather than accept. We reject our feelings, we reject our wholeness, we reject the value that we can bring to the world, we reject our points of view, all of those things that we are taught growing up to do in order to sort of fit in with the culture of our often dysfunctional families prevents us from being all of who we are. So the challenge for us is to allow ourselves to accept our wholeness, to accept all of that we're feeling, to accept all of the values that we have, to accept our imperfections, and to allow ourselves to just be and live all of those things that we are capable of being. I met this lovely lady the other day. Oh, let's see, there's a comment here. I have to get to work. Oh, thanks, Larry. I'm glad you stopped by. And she was this about 30-something-year-old woman who had been a teacher, and her mom had died when her mom was only 57, and she had made this bucket list of things that she had wanted to do that she was never able to do because she never left the hospital. And so this young woman realized that if she was going to accept the truth, and that is that she has a lot of things she would like to do in this lifetime, and that taking on somebody else's idea of what she was supposed to be at that time was a teacher was not right for her. And she listened and accepted the truth that her spirit, her higher self, was telling her about what she needed and wanted for her life. And she took the risk of leaving that position and taking on a freelancer kind of position, working for herself, which was a lot more risky in some ways. And I'm sure her very accountant family was not happy about that. But at the same time, she is quite happy because she is now listening to and taking advice from and accepting the truth of what her spirit is telling her. And none of us do that, do we? So much of the time we don't do that. We try to fit ourselves into the box of what our parents, our friends, our families, our siblings, our spouses tell us we are supposed to do. But the truth is that our real journey here is about accepting and loving who we are and allowing ourselves to be and accept who we are and all the things that we feel and be alive fully and wholly so that we can actually contribute to this planet. If we're going to be here and we're going to play in this lifetime, we have to focus on ourselves. And I know that sounds egocentric, but that's not egocentric at all. It's really allowing ourselves to be the pure love that we were born to be. And when you are in that pure love and moving toward joy, the people that you love and the things that matter to you, and you are contributing to the things that matter to you. because a person who's egocentric is actually just trying to physically survive, and isn't connected to joy, isn't connected to love, isn't connected to presence at all. What I'm talking about is being fully accepting and present in yourself so that you can be available to the people in your life that you love, that you can be available to the planet, to give the gifts that were yours to bring here. That is your job, but you can't do that if you're not willing to accept even the ugly truths about what you might feel. Maybe the truth is this person that you've been devoted to is not the right person for you, even though you love them, even though you can accept a lot of things about them that other people can't accept. But it's okay to accept that maybe while you can see and love and accept those things about them, the truth is you're not walking on the same path. That's okay. And maybe this job that you at first loved, now you've moved on, you've grown to a place where you realize this isn't me anymore. That I am not feeling called to do this anymore. That is not for me now. And those are scary things to accept. And so it takes a courageous person to step into acceptance. Acceptance of your own needs, your own wants, your own value. And when you can do that, magical things will happen. And I can't wait to hear what you might have to say about things that you are doing to practice that in your life. People trying to keep trying to find boxes for me. Yeah, absolutely, that's right. And they will continue to do that because partly that's the way our brains work. Right? We like to categorize things, but we cannot be categorized. We are beyond I can't even say the word right. Categorization. We are beyond that. We cannot be categorized. What we can be is whole, alive human beings when we allow ourselves to accept what is, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the wonderful and the magical. So thanks so much for tuning in today, and please, if you have thoughts or ideas, please post them below, and I would love to hear them. And if you take some risks somewhere and you are willing to accept your truth somewhere and take a step out, please, you can message me privately, leave a message here, whatever. That would be awesome. Also, you can follow me on Patreon. I'm working on building a following there, and I'm getting ready to do a talk show. I'll tell you more about that later. That'll happen later on, probably the first part of next month. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next Monday at 4 o'clock. Also, I'll be with the 4 at 4 on Thursday. Talk to you then. Bye.